which is pretty exciting and shows us what the future might be. Don't be too scared. Hey, it's Marek. My son is learning Chinese at school, and the hard thing about learning Chinese is writing characters. We had a chat, and I thought I wanted to help him a bit. I thought there has to be an app, maybe an iPhone app, in which he could practice writing Chinese characters, but I also wanted that app to have a spaced repetition algorithm. A spaced repetition algorithm is one which tries to understand how hard various characters in this case would be for you, and then it spaces out repetitions of those characters in such a way that the harder characters, the characters that are harder for you to learn, are coming to you a bit more often, and the easier ones are spaced out far into the future. Basically, the algorithm is trying to recognize when you're going to forget a character, and then tries to schedule a repetition at just before or right when you're about to forget that character. It's a very, very economical way of learning languages, and I've been doing it for many, many years. I couldn't find an app like that. I could find lots of apps for practicing writing characters. I could find quite a few apps with spaced repetition algorithms, but ones that wouldn't have the character writing components. So what did I do? I decided to vibe code an app like that. I spent a couple of evenings on this, literally 2 evenings. And at the end of the second evening, I had an app for my son. It was created using Claude Code, but other AI agents would be just as good for this task. And my son now has it, and it's using it. I had to spend a bit of time, those 2 evenings, with the tool. I had to design the high-level architecture of the application. So I was interacting with the tool and telling it what I'm expecting the application to be in terms of the flows, the interactions within the application, in terms of how it should look, but also how the spaced repetition algorithm should work and what would be the logic behind the application. It wasn't a low-level software architecture discussion. It was slightly higher up, a slightly higher level of abstraction. But through this conversation, the AI agent Claude Code created an app that my son now has on his iPhone. He loves it. The application looks quite good, actually, and he's using it right now. Now, I want to put that up in the App Store. I'm waiting for the App Store to approve me into their developer program. I was told it would take a couple of days. It's much more than that by now, but as soon as I have access to the App Store, I will post it there. Now, in my past job where I was working for a large enterprise software company, I was running teams of software developers, and indeed my team put up the very first iPhone application of that organization into the App Store. So I know a tiny bit about creating iPhone apps. And look, an application similar to what I created over those couple of nights, couple of evenings, would take an experienced software developer probably a couple of months to write, or at least a few weeks. So think about it. The speed of development is absolutely unimaginable at the moment, and truly, it would be impossible for me to create that app without AI. I don't even write code in the language Swift, the language that we use to create iPhone applications right now. So that's pretty shocking, pretty impressive. That's something that we should all be paying attention to. So I'm waiting for my App Store developer application to be approved. When I was preparing for this recording, I quickly went into Google Trends and I typed in Apple Developer Program. I found that over many, many years, there was a relatively steady interest in Apple Developer Program. And then there was a massive spike in June 2025. Massive, 20 times more searches for Apple Developer Program than in previous weeks, than in previous years. So what happened in June 2025? Well, in May 2025, in late May 2025, both OpenAI and Anthropic released their own tools for writing software code using AI. OpenAI, there was Codex. Anthropic released Claude Code. Those early versions already created a lot of interest, clearly, and there were at least, or roughly 20 times as many people interested in joining the Apple Developer Program. So a pretty shocking piece of stats. And in fact, what's happening right now, think about the increase of speed of software development. it turns out that there are fewer coders, people who write software code, required. In fact, entry-level jobs for software developers have dropped by 40%. Software developer postings, so job postings, are down 71% since February 2022. And the most recent data shows that, listen to that, computer science graduates now face 6.1% unemployment, which is twice as high than art history majors, who are at 3%. Computer science graduates face twice as high unemployment than art history majors. There's a joke somewhere in there. Perhaps for once, the art history majors are not the ones being asked what they plan to do with that degree. So that's software writing, software coding. And look, we need to acknowledge that what I did in developing of the iPhone app for my son was what some people refer to as write-only code. So the Claude Code agent created all the code. I didn't even look into the code, write-only, right? The AI would write the code would never be read. And it works, but I did put quite a lot of effort into designing the architecture of the application together with the AI agent, which brings me to a metaphor, a comparison that I wrote about in my most recent post on Substack, Bricklayers and Architects, and a post that is the basis for this recording. And in there, I'm showing that we have those two types of work right now. And think about architects, the real ones, the ones who actually design buildings. Their job is to think about the big picture. Their job is to think about the flows through the building, the purpose of the building, everything that really the building is for. Now, those architects are not really looking specifically into, what bricks look like, how they're being stacked, and so on. That's not something that architects focus on. And I think we're going to see more and more of that in other types of jobs. In this case, we're seeing the first examples of that in software development, where we're having architects who need to focus on the bigger picture, designing what an application should look like, how it should behave, thinking about the underlying data architecture, user interactions, and so on and so on. And the actual bricklaying, the writing of individual lines of code, this is being outsourced from humans to a machine now, to code writing algorithms. In the hindsight, when you think about it, all those software houses hiring hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of software developers, they look a bit like those sweatshops from the olden days, pre-industrial revolution. Back then, we automated human manual skills. What's happening right now is the automation of those mental skills of humans with technologies that we have access to right now. Every profession has their bricklayers, every profession has their architects. And this is something that I want you to think about and ask yourself in your own profession. What are the bricklayer tasks, the mundane, the repetitive, the ones that have to be done, but really rely on the broader architecture that shows what exactly should be done? What are the architect tasks in your industry? Think about those two, bricklayer and architect tasks, and how do they differ? It really is a bit like a shift from industrial revolution to the next type of industrial revolution, or the next wave of industrial revolution. In the past, we created machines that were stronger than humans, but we still get to control them with our tiny muscles. Right now, we're creating machines that are smarter and more capable than humans at many, many tasks, but we still get to control them with our tiny brains. Perhaps this is the architecture type of tasks that will really remain for many of us. I do not think a lot about the code of the application that I wrote for my son. Neither is he. And I think that's an interesting point to consider that while those lines of code that make an application run, perhaps these are not the most important part of the application. It really is the architecture. It really is the purpose. It really is the understanding of how users are going to use it. A few weeks ago, I had a post and a podcast about disposable apps. This one is not going to be disposable. I'm sure my son will be using it for quite a while until he finishes his high school, and perhaps he might continue using it even beyond that, which is pretty exciting and shows us what the future might be. Don't be too scared about this future. This is a really exciting development. Yes, a lot of tasks that we do at the moment will be automated, and yes, we will be forced to think, how do we elevate ourselves to those architecture types of tasks at our work. But I think this will mean that we'll be much more satisfied with what we do, because sometimes I feel it's pretty exciting to be an architect. Stay curious.